What happens when hundreds of people paddle onto the world's largest coal port to block the ships?
Police have started making arrests.
Let's take a step back and see how this all started. This story takes place in Mullabinba, Newcastle, on the lands of the Awabakal and Worimi peoples who have cared for this country and sea country for tens of thousands of years. My name's Mitch, this is Maddie, and we were recently at the People's Blockade of the world's largest coal port, organised by Rising Tide.
For over 50 hours, we were with thousands of people from all walks of life for one of the largest acts of civil resistance ever in Australia. This is no doubt something we'll be talking about for the rest of our lives.
So how are you feeling about being here?
It feels amazing to be here. There's so many people here from everywhere and the energy is just electric.
So we got here this morning, and when we came in, the School Strike for Climate Australia were doing a strike through the streets.
What do we want? Climate action! When do we want it? Now!
We've got the marching band playing some tunes, the kayaks are getting lined up, and we're about to head out onto the water very soon.
Pretty ominous feeling. We're all protesting here against coal and there's this massive coal ship just coming in behind us. It feels really eerie but really powerful at the same time. We're off, we're on the water.
I'm sure by now it's pretty obvious why we're here. The climate crisis is rapidly accelerating, but the expansion and exports of fossil fuels continues, while the fossil fuel industry makes billions of dollars, endangering life on Earth in the process. So we're here with thousands of people taking on the fossil fuel industry ourselves. It was so empowering, which is probably why we were smiling most of the time. You'd think we wouldn't be, considering just how devastating and catastrophic the climate crisis is. But being surrounded by so many people who are all there for the same reason is electrifying. It's hard not to be smiling.
So this event almost didn't happen. 6 days before the event was set to kick off, the New South Wales state government imposed a marine exclusion zone for the entire Newcastle port, including the public beaches, for the duration of the blockade, meaning it would have been illegal for anyone to enter the water in the exclusion zone. This was not good news for the organisers. So what did they do? At the 11th hour, the day the exclusion zone was set to kick in, Alexa, one of the key organisers of the blockade, went to the Supreme Court to challenge the exclusion zone. Well, the Supreme Court ruled that the government's exclusion zone was invalid.
We have just heard the ruling that we won. The exclusion zone is invalid.
Alexa challenged the government in court and won. The blockade would go on.
We have seen our government do everything they can to shut this protest down. And yet here we are. Our government would rather protect the interests of the coal and gas billionaires than protect everyday Australians from dangerous climate change. We are here and you cannot silence us.
I would like to imagine a future where I can raise a family in a safe world. The future we are heading towards is sadly not this safe. The future we are seeing is one where global temperatures are rising 1.5 degrees well before 2050. So that's why we're all here today. We are here for our future.
"2023 was the hottest year on record, and 2024 is almost certain to be hotter. The oceans are reaching record temperatures, coral reefs across the globe are dying, we're losing ice at record speed, climate destruction is getting worse, but fossil fuels are still being dug, shipped and burned, while the fossil fuel corporations make record profits and governments support it. Despite decades of conferences and climate targets, we have headed so far in the wrong direction, with no sign of turning around. Scientists have been ringing the alarm bells for years, and now they're at breaking point. So while governments and the fossil fuel industry gamble with the future of life on this planet, More people than ever are rising up to take the future back into their own hands. That's why there's thousands of people here, and that's why we're doing this. So it's been 20 hours since the launch of the flotilla yesterday. The flotilla has gone all through the night. There's been people on the water, on kayaks throughout the middle of the night. It's just incredible, just the commitment from people here. There's been epic live music, sort of like gathering spaces and workshops, and it's just incredible. It's just a great way to bring people together in this way. And so the reason we're here at the Newcastle port is because this is the world's largest coal port. When the coal that comes out of this coal port is burnt, it accounts for 1% of global emissions, which is huge for one area, for one port.
It's been a cracker morning so far. It's a beautiful day. We started off the day with some yoga. They've put on free yoga classes here. Had a beautiful brekkie that they provided as well. And we've just witnessed this amazing like little flash mob dance disco going on, which is really cool. The vibes are high. Everyone just seems like they're in such a great mood. And then we're going to head down to the beach for our relaunch of the flotilla. So it's going to be an awesome day. So excited.
Before the relaunch of the flotilla, we spoke to Zach, another organiser for Rising Tide.
Look, I'm a Newcastle boy. I grew up here. I grew up watching the coal ships come, in and out every day. And you get older and you realise what that actually means. And that's a slow and dispassionate death, basically.
What are the demands of Rising Tide?
Demands are, quite simply, no new coal and gas. Stop making the problem worse, you bastards. I mean, it's not rocket science. The second one is that fossil fuel tax, right? 78% export profits tax for coal and gas. Norway has been taxing its oil exports at 78% since the mid-90s, right? They've got a far smaller industry than we do, but over the course of that, 30 years, they've got a sovereign wealth fund worth 2 trillion Australian dollars. They fund all of their social programs off it, right? That's what happens when you tax corporations appropriately. We give our coal and gas away free, in comparison. So that's demand number 2. And at the end of the day, if we do those two things, we stop approving, new projects, we tax them properly, we can wind back exports. Like, we can do it. Not tomorrow, but our demand is 2030, and that may be ambitious, but it's achievable.
Here's something to blow your mind. From 2013 to 2021, 10 fossil fuel companies made a total of $295 billion combined. How much tax did they pay in that time? $30.
We can ride this out past the edge of time. Summer fires, the blackening.
All right, so we've just made it out onto the water. There is hundreds and hundreds of people out here on the water. There's a coal ship that's about to come past, and there's thousands of people on the beach. So many people here standing up for their future, standing up for a safe climate, and calling for no new coal and gas.
Just to be clear, we weren't in the channel while these ships were transiting through it, but we were supposed to be, so we could stop the ships from leaving the dock and put coal exports to a halt for 50 hours. Last year, they managed to close off the port for 30 hours, but this year was an entirely different story. The police rejected Rising Tide's Form 1, which would have suspended some police powers during the protest. Last year, however, the police granted it to them for the entire 30 hours. So for the first 2 days this year, we slowed down the coal shipping traffic, but we didn't stop the ships. However, that would soon change.
No coal, no more. This is what we're fighting for. No coal, no more. This is what we're fighting for. No coal, no more.
What's the energy like out here?
I think it's just phenomenal. Fantastic. I've never been a part of anything like this. It's totally electric.
We've been chanting, we've been keeping an eye on everybody, making sure everyone's
Team safety.
Yeah. What would you say to people watching?
This is awesome, and it's a way to feel hope and feel connected.
Why are you guys here?
I care about saving the planet for future generations. I've got 3 kids and I want them to be able to see and do all of the things that I've done in my lifetime.
I want here to protect my future and fight for my generation.
It's so great when you see all of these everyday people from all walks of life come together to have peaceful civil disobedience, and this is really a movement for everybody. It's not an extreme experience, it's regular family folk trying to do something strong and peaceful and just.
It really was. This was everyday people, young and old, from all walks of life, coming together for a better future. There was even a coal miner here.
I just can't believe what's actually happening right now. To be around this energy of all of these incredible people, to be united. We are so strong and we are so powerful, and this is a testament to that. This is beautiful.
You've all come here today because something is activated inside of you. Something inside of you because we are all river dreaming people. Every river is connected to the ocean, and the ocean goes up into the clouds, it comes back down again and goes back into the rivers. We're all connected to each other. We're all the river dreaming people, and we all have a purpose. And that purpose is to save our home. And that's what we're doing here, to save our home.
Our lands and our oceans are not a commodity. They are a resource. They run through my veins right now. It is part of who I am, my culture, my identity. So, today, as a Pacific Islander, I stand shoulder to shoulder with you to fight for what's right. Our children, our grandchildren, the next generation.
Climate justice is inseparable from the fight for Indigenous rights. The Rising Tides movement was not just about halting coal exports. It was about protecting lives, preserving culture, and demanding accountability for the harm caused by the fossil fuel industry. The Torres Strait Islands, home to one of the oldest communities on Earth, are already on the forefront of the climate crisis. Rising sea levels threaten ancestral land, sacred sites, and ways of life that have existed for tens of thousands of years. Yet these communities, whose carbon footprints is amongst the smallest in the world, bear the brunt of the crisis they did not create. This injustice must galvanise us to action.
Fire! Fire!
We need to be free. If we are not free, this country could never be free. The relationship with the plants and animals of this land, the soft core animals, we only eat and take what we've been told by the spirits. And same with all the plants and animals that we are connected with. That keeps the springs running through this country, because the Japan, the plumber, keeps it open. And the mining will kill it. When it kills the springs, then it kills the country. Then he killed Burma, all of us. He no discriminate the color of your skin. That's why we protect these places. And we're very glad that we got people who understands us, because you are part of us.
All of my fights for Aboriginal equality and rights in this country all come back to one thing. All comes back to country. When I was fighting for the stolen generation and to stop the forced removals of Aboriginal children in this country, which still goes on today, that's fighting for country. Fighting to stop fossil fuel companies raping and pillaging our lands is fighting for country. So every fight that we've had as Aboriginal people in this nation of Australia has all come back to country. If we can fight for country and yous are there in solidarity and unity with us, we can change. We can change this country. And I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to be moving forward in that space. Show these greedy, well-off, deep-pocket mongrels that country and the life of country and the life of people who live on it bloody well means something.
it's obviously been a tricky point so far. The last week's been difficult. Like, tell us about, the challenges that you guys have faced.
Yeah, so look, the state government, they've tried to shut us down at every possible opportunity, right? So we submitted our Form 1, which is how we get on the water, with legal protections, and they shot that down. They put in an exclusion zone on the whole of the port to make it criminal to actually just step into the water, which was insane, right? And then after that, they started threatening us with trespass. So we actually had to move our site over the road to here. They really just are throwing every little bureaucratic thing at us, right? Turns out that the exclusion zone was illegal, so we got that overturned in the Supreme Court. But it just shows you that the government really is more interested in protecting the fossil fuel, billionaires, basically, than our right to protest or, children, right? Their future. It's kind of disgraceful, but it's also exactly what we expected.
Why are you here and why are you part of Rising Tide?
Really, I'm here because the climate emergency is so profound, so urgent, that I feel like this needs to be the main issue that I'm focusing my life work on.
Why is it important for people to come together like this and not just petition and write letters and things like that?
We're not at the right point in history to be timid about the way we take action on the climate emergency. Like, life on Earth is hanging in the balance. There are other ways to take action, and I'm glad that people are doing those things. But I think that we're not at the right point in history to be timid about the kinds of action that we take. There's quite a lot of social science research and a lot of activist history that shows that when you really need action on something and you need it urgently, and when you're failing to break through in the public conversation, then actually civil disobedience and mass action are the things that can turn the tide of that particular fight in your favour. And we're at a point in history where we need it to turn, and we need it to turn fast. And so we are giving that a red hot try here.
Thank you, Mary, for those words of wisdom. And there was a particular movement in history where mass action and civil disobedience were very powerful in the success of that movement. And it's probably the movement that has had the biggest impact on all of our lives today, to the point where society would be totally different if not for the action of these women. They were the suffragettes and the movement for women's right to vote.
My name's Alex. I'm from Mullabimba, Newcastle, right here. I'm one of the main organisers and mentors with Youth Rising.
And why are you here this weekend? Why are you a part of this amazing blockade?
It's the fight of our lives, really, and the climate crisis just weighs on me so immensely, and I just really think this is really important.
Is there anything else that you want to say to the people watching?
You are so not alone. I know this is so scary, but there's like thousands of people here today who are fighting for our future, for our generation.
Alex organised the school strike, which you saw at the beginning. We also heard from a few other people about why they were at the blockade.
I'm here to act on the climate, to stop more climate destruction.
I'm an ex-resident of Newcastle, and I'm ashamed of what we're doing with the environment and for our First Nations people. We've got to fix it, and here we've got some of the best people in the country making that happen.
I'm here today because the Albanese Labor government has approved 28 coal and gas mines since coming to office, and each of those projects will make the climate crisis worse, especially people in the global south and our Pacific neighbours, because our government is failing to stand up to fossil fuel giants and failing to address the climate crisis. It's up to people like us to do that, and that's why I'm here with a massive group of community members.
There is a lot of climate anxiety inside my body, and it's like a pressing thing in my daily life, and I feel very powerless about that in daily life and what can I do. And so I think coming here as a collective of people helps like rid my body of that and recharge me, because like I see the power of the people together and I can feel that power and I can feel the change in the air.
Why are you guys here today?
Because I'm really concerned about the state that our planet's in. I work as an environmental lawyer, but it's really nice to go and do something more direct. And I just when I come to these things, I feel inspired because I see how many other people also care.
We're with a activism group based in Richmond, California called the Rich City Race. We saw the scale of the People's Blockade, and we're really impressed by how many folks were coming out and really cared deeply about this issue. And so we wanted to be a part of this and join in and show international solidarity.
We wanted to come out to show ways in which all of our fights are deeply interconnected. Pollution and emissions know no borders.
People have come here to, protest against government failure, basically. Failure to take care of young people, failure to take care of hunter workers. Like, this is a really important one for me. Like, coming from Newcastle, we're not just anti, like, we're pro-community, right? We're pro putting money back into places like Singleton, Muswellbrook, where the coal actually does keep those communities alive, but it doesn't have to.
Now, this is really important to note. As Zach said, we aren't just anti, we're pro-community. We want to see the best outcome for all communities. Rising Tide's demands aren't designed to leave the workers in the coal industry hanging high and dry. Their demand is a 78% tax on coal export profits for these corporations who pay barely any tax to fund the transition and fund the new jobs for these workers. A lot of workers in the coal industry have said they don't care about the coal, they just need a job, and they want to know they've got a job to go to in the future.
So it's happening, everyone's getting in the water, there's a coal ship about to come past. This is people power at its finest, people standing up against the fossil fuel industry.
How can you justify knowing from science and clear evidence that has been known since before I was born that millions of people are going to die if you continue as you are? How can you live knowing that the suffering that we are seeing now in your lifetime will be nothing compared to the catastrophe scientifically predicted for mine? How can you know this and still not act? I say shame on you! Shame!
What do we want? When do we want it? Now! What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
That ship has just gone past, and after this ship goes past, we'll see how many people paddle out into the channel.
Alrighty, it is go time. We haven't had a proper blockade yet because of the police. They've been making us stay in these yellow buoys, but now everyone is deciding to take to the channel and to actually stop some ships from going out or coming in.
Okay, so it is all happening. The police have started making arrests. Incredibly brave climate earth defenders have just headed straight for the channel, and it is all happening. The police are making arrests. These people are brave and they will be remembered as heroes.
The people out here that are risking getting arrested are heading straight for the channel. Their grandparents, they're younger than 16 years old. These are just everyday Australians that are just doing something to take the future back in their own hands.
So just to add to that, these are everyday people who are standing up against the fossil fuel industry, the coal industry, the gas industry, who are hell-bent on sacrificing the future of the planet and every living thing on it to make as much money as they can. So it's gotten to the point where people feel called to put their bodies on the line and risk themselves being arrested. That is why everyone's here and we're making history today.
Climate action! Now! Climate action! Now!
So in the end, the blockade resulted in a temporary pause of shipping traffic, forcing one ship that was headed for the port to turn around and head back out to sea. 170 people who paddled into the channel for the actual blockade of the port were arrested by the police. Here's a few photos of these radical protesters. Now you see this guy? This is interesting. This is Grant. He's a coal miner. He was arrested at the blockade because he's concerned about the climate crisis and wants things to change. But it didn't end here. After Newcastle, hundreds of people took to Parliament House in Canberra, taking the people power from the port to the politicians. Another 22 people were arrested for taking action at Parliament House. One of the main reasons for the People's Blockade was to break into the mainstream conversation with the demand of no new coal and gas. Well, with over 7,000 media hits, we certainly did that. The People's Blockade was hot topic in the news. But this story doesn't end here. How this story plays out is up to us. We have to decide what kind of future we want to pass on to our children and grandchildren. We have everything we need to live sustainably and within our means on this planet. We have all the technology we need. Renewables have been confirmed many times to be cheaper than fossil fuels. We have the economics for a sustainable system, and we have nature, our greatest superpower. What's holding us back are the big corporations who are benefiting from this system of destruction and the lack of political will to stand up to them. So we now have two options. Sit back, continue business as usual, sacrificing life on Earth and the living conditions for the next generations. Or we can choose to join this rapidly growing movement of people rising up for the future, making our voices louder than the power held by the fossil fuel industry, and help change the course of this outcome. The choice is ours.